Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Brandforsk and our result webinar about enhancement of wood fire performance using eggshells. My name is Mattias Delin, and I'm the research director here at Brandforsk. And with me today, I have Edita Garskate, Mikael Furst, and Konrad Wilkins Fleckner Brown. Good morning. Welcome.
Morning.
Morning.
So hello everybody again. I am working at Luleå University of Technology in Wood Science and Engineering Division, and I am a material scientist and have about 20 years of experience working on different materials for different applications, starting from bioceramics for bone engineering, solar cells, energy, and now work for the last 5 years on wood properties and on enhancement of wood properties and concentrating on fire retardancy.
Okay, thank you. And Mikael, who are you?
Yes, hello. My name is Mikael Furst, and I'm a professor in structural and fire engineering at Luleå University of Technology. I'm a physicist from the beginning, but I've been working with fire technology since 2006.
Okay, thank you and welcome. And Konrad, welcome. Who are you?
Hi. Yes, my name is Konrad Wilkins. I'm a researcher at the Danish Institute of Fire and Security Technology, specifically with working a lot with material fire behavior and new fire retardants is a big thing. So that's why this is a very interesting webinar.
Okay, thank you. So welcome all of you. I'm just going to give a brief information to the audience as well, but we will see more of you later on. Thank you. Brief information about Brandforsk, in case you are not familiar with us already. We have a vision, a fire-safe and sustainable society built on knowledge. We develop and communicate knowledge, mainly research. And this is to limit the negative consequences of fire in the society. We started in 1979, and we are a foundation since 2019. Everything we do is financed by our supporting organizations, and this makes us a collaboration between many parts of the society. And the funding so far this year is about 680,000 euro. And we use our money for research, like this project, for example, and result communication, like webinars. And we also have a research school for practicing fire safety engineers in fire services. And I'm very proud to announce today that Emily Lantz, who is one of the students, she will defend her licentiate thesis today at 1 o'clock. So you can see that. You can find the Zoom link on our webpage. You don't have to register before that. You just click into that. And we also have scholarships for students. These are the organizations that have supported us so far this year. Thank you very much. The fundraising is still open, and I hope that more are interested to supporting us. And of course, the fundraising for next year is also open. The program today, after this short introduction, you will get a presentation about the project. It's about 40 minutes long. And after that, we have time for questions. I just want to give you a little head up. One slide in the presentation has 2 pictures that may be a bit unpleasant for you. And now let's see the presentation.
So hello everybody, my name is Edita and I am working as a senior lecturer at Luleå University of Technology. And today I would like to present for you results from Brandforsk project, which was about synthesis of calcium phosphates, which are derived from eggshells and inside the wood. And we were aiming to improve fire resistance of wood materials. So main team of this project is myself, then Professor Michael Först and Professor Dick Sandberg. So we all work at Luleå University of Technology, and Professor Michael Först is from Structural and Fire Engineering Division. He is based in Luleå, and Professor Dick Sandberg and myself, we're working in Skellefteå in Wood Science and Engineering Division. So this project lasted for 9 months. We had a reference group, and reference group is Dr. Conrad Wilkens, Flecknoe-Brown from DBI, and then Dr. Stefan Sedqvist from MSB, which is Agency of Swedish Administrative Authority. So the main scientific idea, as already title showed, is utilizing eggshells, which is considered as a waste and a hazard material by European Union, and to use it for enhancement of resistance towards fire in the use of local Scots pine. So trees from the local region north of Sweden. So wood material. Everybody probably would agree that wood is a remarkable material, and we all love wood. We like wooden things, and wood is definitely vital for ensuring our sustainable future. We all live in or like to live in wooden houses, and in a recent decades, there was a increasing interest in timber buildings worldwide, and that is due to new technologies, mass timber system, and as I mentioned, is environmental benefits what we get when we are surrounded by wood. So here in the picture, there is one recently inaugurated buildings in Skellefteå. It's a Sara Kulturhus, which is a 20-story building, and it's completely from wood made. And one would think, what is the problem with these wooden buildings? So regulations require that these wooden buildings met requirements which are for performance for fire resistance. So there is a lot of different fire retardants effective used, but unfortunately some of them which are very effective as flame retardants, they also can create enormous risk for environment and public health, like halogenated flame retardants, like brominated. We need to try to remove it. So there is a need to find these new materials which do not make harm for people and for environment. So because of this fire retardancy issue, we need to treat wood, and there are 3 main ways how wood is treated. There is applying coatings, modifying wood cell wall. We see here example of wood structure cross-section with cell lumina and cell walls, and impregnating. So in this our work, we decided to do impregnation of wood, and with impregnating, usually the problem is that it usually proceeds through solutions which are materials dissolved in water. So then it can at certain time leakage appear of this, and then is reduced efficiency of these materials. So recently studies showed that there is another method or people aiming to modify wood like I call it by hybrid modification, where it is actually wood mineralization. So we're trying to combine different inorganic based materials together with wood, and we do this in situ. So basically, we treat from solutions, and then when reactive ions or species combine together, we precipitate inside of the wood, and then you have these hybrid composites, which also possess certain improvement in some properties, show improvement in some properties. So our project had 4 main aims, and one of those was to develop aqueous formulations from eggshells in order to get in situ precipitated ceramics within wood matrix. Then we, of course, were aiming to evaluate flammability properties of reinforced wood exposed to realistic fire conditions. We also wanted to check mechanical properties, because that is also very important if you're aiming to have material in the construction sector. And of course, we wanted to describe or to summarize and describe effectiveness of these formulations and wood reinforcement and flammability properties. So the problematic, as already showed in previous slides, the suppressing need for environmentally friendly flame retardants, and also waste management. That's another big problem of eggshells. So how do we do it? Firstly, here is a very simplified processing scheme. And what we do, we take eggshells, we grind them, and then we anneal at different temperatures. And that, at high temperatures, when you're annealing, is supposed to give us calcium oxide. Then from this calcium oxide, we make calcium acetate. And that calcium acetate, which is dissolvable in water, we can make one solution. So then we take another solution of ammonium dihydrophosphate. This time we chose this material because it's by itself a fire retardant. And then when you mix these 2 solutions, you get a calcium phosphates, different calcium phosphates. So wood is firstly treated with one solution, then is treated with another solution, and then we hope that we are able to obtain these different calcium phosphates within wood matrix, the same as in a solution without a wood. So why calcium phosphates? So calcium phosphates is a group of minerals which are widely used in the field of bone tissue engineering. So we have a similar structure to the main mineral of human bone and teeth. So we have calcium, we have phosphates, we're different materials, we are biocompatible with materials. Some of them are bioresorbable, and they have a different reactivity. So that opens for us opportunities to modify wood in a different way, and to get with different materials, which actually would possess different properties. So hydroxyapatite is the primary mineral of bone, and it represents 43% of by weight of bone. And hydroxyapatite, synthetic hydroxyapatite, and the tricalcium phosphate, which also has different forms, are the most studied materials in bone engineering field. So eggshells. Why eggshells? Because 96% of eggshells are composed of calcium carbonate, which is a very big source of calcium. And as I mentioned before, eggshells are considered a hazardous waste. So we need to find a ways to recycle, to utilize this material, and not to put into landfills. So this project is very multidisciplinary, and it covers material chemistry, with processing materials, characterization, a lot of solution chemistry, wood chemistry, and wood technology, and then fire engineering, fire safety, fire chemistry. And everything, it would be combined and under one umbrella. This is a circular economy project. So what we did, we processed materials, and I will go into details very soon. Then we used many different techniques to study and to confirm if it's those materials or not. Then we performed wood modification. We again used many techniques. We measured mechanical properties, and then we studied finally fire properties, where we used concalorimeter and microcombustion pyrolysis. Yeah. So results. Let's see what we achieved in this project. So here I would like to start before going into details to show one image where we had preliminary results from the previous work, where we did wood mineralization with mixed metal silicates via cyclic impregnation. And sodium silicate is actually used as a flame retardant material. So we obtained very encouraging results. We see that wood cerulina are filled with these minerals. And here we see this so nice coverage with small nanoparticles. So encouraged by these results, we thought, let's go into more complex system where you need eggshells to process and then also to try to impregnate wood. So here is an eggshell surface, and on the top we have internal membrane part. And here we have outer layer of eggshells, and this is how we look before processing. And when we're processing eggshells, like I mentioned, we have a calcium carbonate, which is a main phase of eggshells. And then when you anneal at higher temperatures, you need that in order, you need to perform thermogravimetric analysis in order to estimate at which temperatures you need to heat this material and to get a calcium oxide, pure calcium oxide, from which you continue further to make a calcium acetate and then use for wood impregnation. So we also performed infrared analysis of this calcined material. We adjusted our process, and then when we got the calcium oxide, we prepared calcium acetate, and here is example of infrared spectra which we received, and it shows for us characteristic bands for acetate ions. So wood impregnation. Wood impregnation can be performed in industrial autoclaves, and also we performed in this project impregnation in a small laboratory scale beakers, where we had a small many samples, and we could adjust adjust injection of solutions different, because we need a circular impregnation. It means saturation with one solution, saturation with another. We also can adjust the pressure, and we also performed in a little bit bigger desiccators impregnation. So what I would like to show you now, why we also used this now at the moment, firstly laboratory scale impregnation. We wanted to see that we really are able to obtain a saturation with solutions with our wood samples. So here's what I hope with some video we can see all how bubbles are going when you apply vacuum in solutions. They are so violently going out. It means our liquid is penetrating into wood, and we have a matrix saturated with solution, which is actually very important in order to get after materials. So what we did, we prepared samples of different sizes. So these were used for mechanical properties, bending. Then we also had samples which we used for compression strength testing. We had bigger blocks which we used for cone colorimeter, and for all other characterization techniques we used any of these samples and checked the saturation of this wood, how this material precipitates in situ. So we performed from commercial precursors, where we used commercial calcium acetate and ammonium dihydrophosphate, and we also used eggshells, which was calcium precursor, and then we used the same ammonium dihydrophosphate. So now let's see what we have. So here is a images showing morphology of cross-sectioned wood samples, which are mineralized from commercial calcium acetate. So we see this coverage of materials, and we have a lumen which are also filled with plate-like crystals. And actually, these plate-like crystals, here is a closer look at them. You see it's like very nicely attached to the cell wall, and cell wall is so smooth, like showing that it's different composite material. So actually, this plate structure indicates for us that we have a mineral brushite inside the wood matrix. So brushite has in itself, its structure, 2 molecules of water. So what we did, powder X-ray diffraction is a standard technique which is used to confirm a structure of materials. So we recorded it from the pure powders and then within Scots pine subwood. So this bump in background is due to the cellulose, and these reflections were assigned to the brushite phase. So this peak shows us that we have a layered structure of material. So and it's exactly what we obtained in a scanning electron microscopy when we observed structure of these crystals. So when we determined that we have a brushite, then what we did, we wanted to see saturation of wood cell wall. So for that, we used scanning electron microscope equipped together with energy dispersive spectroscopy technique. And basically principle of this technique is that when electrons interact with a spaceman, you get a generation of X-rays which are characteristic to each element. And then you can assign those elements different colors, and this is just to help us visualize. And then you can see a distribution when you perform a mapping of this certain place which you investigate into scanning electron microscope. So then when you get the images processed, what we can see now here is that we have not only inside these crystals formed, but we also get saturation of cell wall. And that is actually very important, because this is what we also should be aiming, how our cell wall, is it saturated or is it not? So we were very pleased with these results. It means that our second solution is also able by this method to penetrate deep through the wood samples. So we also did studies of thermal behavior, and I just will mention few things that when we compare unmodified wood with modified wood, we see this is this black curve, and then it's broken black curve, which is showing weight loss when you're increasing temperature. And what we saw, that residue mass of mineralized wood is higher compared to unmodified wood. So that's also one thing that is showing for us that we managed successfully to make material inside of wood matrix. Now, another thing what we observed, we have in the wood, which is a red curve, two degradation steps. It's at 347 and 470. However, for mineralized wood, we have one peak which is a little bit shifted to the lower temperatures. So that can be to do a little bit with changes in chemical composition of wood matrix, because when you're treating with solutions, there is a basic or acidic pH, and that affects and interacts with components of wood and result probably in some structural changes. But what we also observed, here a small peak at around 185, which was not present in the pure unmodified wood. And that is actually shows and to do is water release from the structure of the mineral. So we also recorded thermogravimetric analysis together with mass spectrometry, where gas evolution was checked. And what we observed here, we have a Scott spine pure, how it is behaves, what gases are evolving when you heating sample and during the degradation, these molecular or ionic species evolve from your sample. And what we observed for mineralized wood, that we have additional evolution of water and also ammonia, which is from this fire retardant material, ammonium dihydrophosphate. So basically what this implies to us that material has fire retardant properties. So we tested mechanical properties, and mechanical properties, what is interesting, that didn't show very big difference compared to the unmodified. So we have unmodified wood, and then we have different concentration, using different concentrations modified wood samples. Here is a compressive strength, and here is a bending strength of these longer samples. And they are, it's not increase and it's not decrease very drastic. So, but if you look at the density is increasing of wood with increasing concentration. So probably that's not a bad result, because we have other features which were changed, but mechanical properties stay similar. So that can be attributed probably to the actual also mineral. One reason why we do not have such a big difference, because minerals, they are overall brittle, and their properties depends very much on the particle sizes, on crystallinity, on the composition. So to really say the main reason, we need to do a little bit more studies. On another hand, wood by itself is a very it's an isotropic material, and also depends on even within the same larger sample, you can get slightly different properties of wood material. So combination of these factors, then achieving homogeneous saturation of matrix and combining these probably a little bit conflicting properties of each material gives a result. Yeah, so now let's see what we obtained when we mineralized wood from solutions which were prepared from processed eggshells. So just briefly to remind, we take eggshells, when we calcine it, when we add water, acetic acid, we obtain powders after drying of calcium acetate, and we use that as a first solution. Then here we see these saturated wood blocks, small samples. And then we already here is actually after the second impregnation, because we see a little bit turbid solution. So reaction is happening, and we have this white precipitate, which is one form of calcium phosphate. So let's see what we obtain here. So here I am showing the smallest concentration which we chose to modify wood. And in for this set of samples, we didn't got complete saturation of cell luminum. So we didn't got complete saturation of cell lumina, but we also performed ADX analysis, energy dispersive spectroscopy, and we checked that we get precipitation, and we also in cell walls have elements which we were aiming. So calcium and phosphorus precipitate within cell lumina somewhere, and also within cell wall. So here is a carbon and oxygen, how it shows when you assign different elements. So in the wall, we have mainly carbon, which is coming from the wood, of course. And then on the top here, we have a mixture of these elements. So when you mix red, yellow, you get orange, and you see that way it is our calcium phosphate. Now let's see at structure what we got. So we took our powders, we dried this solution, and we took those powders, and we again recorded X-ray diffractogram. And here is a reference material from the database, which is corresponding to hydroxyapatite. This is what we wanted, hydroxyapatite bone material. And on this slide, we see standard of unmodified wood, X-ray diffractogram, and then wood with a mineral. Because it's overlapping and we get a very strong from the cellulose reflections. So this is why we thought that it's valuable to take those powders and also record. So what we see that the main peaks corresponds to hydroxyapatite, and here is the main reflections of the reference also gives changes in this our region where it is overlapping with cellulose. So we doing some other complementary technique, also analysis, we decided that we have a low crystallinity hydroxyapatite. So probably annealing at high temperatures, we will get a very high crystallinity hydroxyapatite. We also measured mechanical properties, and mechanical properties again were not so very much, didn't show much difference comparing with a reference wood. We got maybe even slightly reduced mechanical properties, but that can be also attributed to the not fully saturated matrix, and also pH is different when we prepare these materials. We used a little bit more basic solution, and maybe that induces some more changes in the actual wood material. So let's see fire properties, what we got. Fire properties, as I mentioned, it was studied with cone calorimeter and microscale combustion calorimeter. So we have here these two instruments, how we look like. It's a microscale combustion calorimeter, and there on the back of laboratory, we see cone calorimeter. So for cone calorimeter, you use bigger samples in air, you ignite, and then you report evolution of gases and process data, and then get heat release curves, which I will show soon. And micro MCC instrument has two chambers, which is pyrolysis and then combustion, and you use a very small amount. You can adjust different gases. So you can adjust different gases and to check and relate that behavior when you pyrolyze your material under different atmospheres or different ratios of gases to the initial processing, and then to have a little bit better overview about the fire properties. So MCC data. So here we have cubes, and what we did actually, we microsliced those mineralized wood specimens, and we recorded from the surface and from the middle of the wood block. And we also compared that with a reference wood. We did analysis in nitrogen atmosphere as pyrolysis conditions, and also in oxidative in air. So let's see what here we have. So what we observe, a green curve is unmodified wood, and when we compare with calcium phosphate from eggshells mineralized wood, what we get that this mineral actually induced has effect, and it's reduced heat release rate. So from the surface we have the highest reduction, and then it's probably also to do with the highest amount of mineral what we have on the surface. Now when we record it in air, we have a green light curve is standard for the wood sample, unmodified wood. We have two peaks, and second peak is associated with oxidation of the char, because this in nitrogen atmosphere cannot happen. And we have a different behavior when we have a mineralized wood. So this actually gives us or shows us that we are able not only to mineralize wood with, from eggshells, but it's also these minerals which are inside wood matrix changes behavior of fire decomposition behavior. So also cone calorimeter tests when they were performed under different external heat flux, and this time we used 20 and 50 kilowatts per square meter. So when we compare again Scots pine wood with mineralized wood, what we see a reduction in a heat release rate, or shifting a little bit into like postponing at the later stage. And that indicates, I would say, potential of using calcium phosphate minerals for wood protection against fire. So, of course, we probably need to do a little bit more studies to have a bigger overview and to relate specific modifications towards mineral structure and to composition, what we get in wood matrix, and how it's thermal behavior and fire behavior. but I think it's a very positive and good results. So conclusions to sum up of this work, I can say that we demonstrated that this wet chemistry processing route is viable. We can achieve and reinforce wood with calcium phosphate minerals. We think and I think this work shows that it's possible to do upscaling, because we also have an industrial autoclave, which would be a second step to try larger scale materials, not only on a micro scale. Thermogravimetric analysis, mass spectrometry, cone colorimetry, and microcone colorimetry showed that we have materials which inside wood matrix which possess fire retardancy properties. And then probably overall results imply a potential in producing hybrid bio-based materials that could be attractive in the construction sector as environmentally friendly building materials. So I would like also to mention that this project was a very international project. And first of all, I would like to thank for Konrad Wilkens and Professor Patrick Van Hees. They were helping with MCC measurements. Then we had people who were helping for us with cone colorimetry measurements. It's people from Slovak University of Technology were involved. So Professor Jozef Martinka, Peter Rantug, and Marian Drinovsky, who helped with thermogravimetric analysis. We also worked together with people from Vilnius University, where Dr. Denis Sokol and his student, Gabija Navashinskaite, helped process eggshells, and we did impregnation there together. And then Giedrius Balčiūnas, who was also consulting and helping us with mechanical properties, who is from Vilnius Gediminas Technical University, and then also Professor Stefan Houston from Heriot-Watt University, who helped for us regarding biotechnology, eggshells and proteins extraction and processing eggshells. So this project led to, we submitted one publication, another is under preparation, and we also presented data at the conference, European Federation of Biotechnology, in last month. So how do we proceed from here? So there's many ways which we can approach, and I would say I will mention few. This is optimization of eggshell processing, because we need to adjust temperature, maybe time, to try to obtain the purest material, because it is a really complex structure overall, eggshells. Then we need to decide which materials specifically we are targeting. Then there is plenty of way what is needed to be done to make a homogeneous wood throughout all matrix, entire wood blocks. Upscaling is not only from wood technology part, but it's also from fire engineering and properties testing. It would be very important. And smoke release, probably via light extinction method using diode lasers, that could give a lot of information about safety for humans of these materials, how they behave in the environment, and definitely economic assessment of different parts. That would be steps which we should take further. So thank you very much, and if you have questions, we would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Edita, for your presentation. That's very interesting. And I can add, you mentioned the publications, and the report will be published in very soon in the future as well. And to the audience, please write your questions in the Q&A and we will answer them. Some of you have already started writing here. That's excellent. So let's start here with the first question. In page 34, how many samples were tested to compare results between treated and untreated wood samples?
Okay, here is the answer. It reports about micro-scale conversion pyrolysis. So here we actually present only one curve from each, how to say, region of the wood analyzed, which was analyzed. But we performed 5 samples for each. Yeah, so we took many different samples, and then minimum 3 has to be in order for reproducibility, and that is in agrees, and we got reproducible results, and we're going to include that into all data into paper, into manuscript. So here, just not to overload presentation, I took one curve.
Okay, so people can read more in the report.
Yeah.
Thank you. And another question, was the timber dried in between treatments to aid the presentation of the ammonium phosphate?
Yes, it was dried. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So because you need to dry. So you calculate concentrations, what you want, and then you get a little bit higher concentrated into wood. And then after you drying, and then you treating next time. So drying has to be, this is what I mentioned during presentation. Here is another, let's say, side or branch of project, of this project, what you need also from technological wood perspective to adjust. Because depending on the concentrations, you have a different amount of material, and you also have a different drying time. But in this project, we wanted to show a hypothesis at the beginning. So it's definitely a lot of things which needed to carry it on further.
Okay. So what I was curious, that what is the reaction time when you add the second solution? Is it really fast, or does it take some time?
It's instant.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because when you combine these 2, calcium and phosphate, they just instantly make a new material combined. Oh. So here is actually, I can tell that I think lower concentrations for wood treatment is better from the processing part side. Because if you have a very big concentrated solutions, then you're kind of getting instant coverage, and then through this it's difficult to diffuse, to penetrate this matrix.
Yes, it creates a barrier.
Yeah, exactly. So we did many different variations, and then we of course studied, analyzed to see what you get. But if you have solutions which are lower, then you can like smoothly more, and then maybe not so much saturated. But that's another very interesting, as I say, would be work to continue and to see how to make it. It's a very complex system of everything. Only wood complex, and then minerals are complex, and then processing, and
Yeah. It's really engineering the material. I find it very, very interesting. Is it possible to give some kind of amount of fire retardant that you used for the wood in the cone calorimeter test?
Amount? What we
used?
Can
you? How much did you need to use? How much did you use in that test?
We used, I wrote in, I think in the presentation also mentioned that we prepared solutions chose like, let's say 0.5 moles per liter ion concentration. So those who are working and then adequately, because there's a different, materials react between themselves in different ratios. So you need to calculate, you take one, and then let's say, so we took half of a mole per liter solution because we need, bigger also volumes prepared. And then we adequately took a corresponding amount of another solution in order to make that specific material. So to estimate how much on each block, you need to weight blocks, and that, of course, I didn't present it. Now for microcalorimetry, because you take a very small amount and from different layers, so that you can estimate, we have, that's in the report included, you have a residue mass which is left. So here is like, it's difficult to answer for me to this question, because what we actually talking about, are we talking about how much we need at the beginning, how much it is left on which layer, or do we talking about bigger blocks? So, right. But I would suggest for people interested in that to do a little bit review, to check our papers, and literature review gives estimation of this or advice, I would say, from which concentrations is better to use, taking into consideration what you want to achieve.
Right.
I don't know if I answered it, but I hope.
No, that's a good answer. Yeah. And we have another question here. What opportunities are there to remove the sediment seen in the fluid after the second treatment with the eggshell-derived chemicals? The one who's asking this is concerned this will be an issue for the pipes in the autoclave, and there will potentially be a significant risk of pipes blocking.
Yeah, that's true. Now, again, depending on the concentration, what you're using. So this is what I mentioned, that's a, from technology, you need also a little bit, but what we did, again, that's also a lot of chemistry. And we were able, when we were using very low concentrations, you do not get as much. That I showed just for visual effect in these beakers. But again, depending on the concentration, and if it's low concentration would be sufficient to treat wood in order to get desired properties, then maybe it's not the very, very drastic and no blockage, because it's also, you need to adjust. It's basically chemistry, what you want to achieve, what concentrations, and then of course, technological issue, how to try to get, you could dissolve those maybe, with acid, putting acid, because as I said, we have this different solubility. So depending on material, you put acid a little bit more, and then they dissolving after you remove material which is impregnated, and then you can wash away a solution. So that's lay all wonder in chemistry, all wonderful things and what's happening then.
Okay, thank you. Some other questions here. You were talking about the mechanical properties and how they changed a bit. Do you have any theory about what happens? Is it the material getting more stiff, and
So as I mentioned, mechanical properties does not change much, but wood, it's not good for wood to have a very basic or very acidic, because it's destroying.
Right.
So, for example, for some specific, what I showed, like apatite phase, of mineral is formed when you have much higher pH. And much higher can be 9, 10, or 11. So that's quite high. And that actually, if you're treating very long wood, it affects. So all extractives, everything going a little bit away from wood. So if to answer why it is, just I will repeat like what I said in the presentation, pH is very important. So it's why you need to find a balance. Now, another thing, material, again, it's how you, saturation. So you need to do a little bit more longer. This project has to be extended, and then you have to, from these hypotheses and initial demonstration of results, what we did, it would be very nice to extend and to do a little bit, more studies.
Yeah. This is a very, very early stage in your research, of course. About reaction and pH and such. If one should treat a wooden wall, for example, with this, and later on they would treat it with some kind of oil or paint or something, can it react and then you have something else, or is it?
I don't think so.
You don't
because
think so?
It's a ceramic material. So it's a ceramic material which is ceramics are inert. Okay, it's a mineral because ceramic has to be annealed at high temperature. But overall, like, you treat walls with titanium oxide, you have the same, it's a, so I think actually that is very nice point and good point that you can treat it, lightly, let's say, with mineral, where you also, I didn't mention, but it's another thing, it's very important biodegradation of the wood. So when you induce a little bit harder material which protects the main components of wood, maybe you don't need big amount of that. You can put a little bit of mineral inside, and then in addition you can cover with different oil, or some maybe polymeric other compounds which are for protection. So there's a lot of opportunities, so I think that's a very, very, very good point, that maybe to put additional protection.
Because that's usually questions that are raised when we talk about treating wood. The risk of leakage or other treatments, but you say it's really a strong. This is a strong method that it can treat, and it will not leak to.
So mineral stays itself, because we did this, let's say, small-scale preliminary leaching test, and we did washing, of this also material. So mineral stays. I have not presented in a presentation, but we did analysis after one was treated and washed, so leakages. So leakage appearing at those, let's say, unreacted, like ions, like acetic acid, maybe, but these are, not a harm. But mineral stays inside. So that's a nice thing. So if water would be, like rain or whatever, so we still have a mineral, and it's still a protection, of wood. So, but again, I will tell it's a very, I would say, probably a new thing in a wood modification, because it's not easy to combine these materials, with conflicting properties, like ceramic, minerals, and then a live material wood.
Yes. So what do we think in the future? Would it be possible to treat wood on site in a building, or do you think it's an industrial process that needs to be in?
Because it is done, if you have developed stable formulations, you can take this to coating, like, that's also possible. But here it is all the point that you make it inside the wood. And in order to make inside the wood, you need you need somehow to treat, and usually to treat that you need a pressure, you need a vacuum to remove air, and you need something, you know, to put. So if you're standing outside, I'm not sure, you know, if you can at the moment this, you know, to make in situ mineralization, unless you go into this, you know, self-healing materials, and that's a little bit from, yeah. Different different field, not technological, where, you know, they by themselves penetrate. That's you know, but you need a pressure, you need autoclave, and at the moment I would say, yeah, here in Skellefteå we doing this, we treating in autoclave, where we do this industrial, yeah, we have prototype, so big wood blocks. So yeah, so.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Thank you. Please write your questions in the Q&A if you want thinking about more things. I love your pictures from this SEM-EDS mapping. It's very beautiful.
Yes, yeah, I like that technique. Yes, it's my how to say, this is the most what I'm using, because actually it's showing very well, very nicely. You have it or you don't have it, and
exactly, yeah.
And it's a quick, easy, and yeah, it's a nice, I think. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think I should order a poster if I can.
Yeah.
But Conrad, you've been you're doing a lot of research on furnitures and materials, and what are your reflections on this technology?
I think it's very super interesting area and an important topic to go into, and I think Adita sort of only brushed over it, but the point about that these materials might not leach as much as standard fire retardants, I think, is a very important point, and a very good point about these materials compared to standard fire retardants that are out there in the market as well, because we know that leaching is a big problem. And looking forward, when, you know, encouraging more and more wood materials to be used, and outdoor applications especially, this is a really hot topic. It's always a pun in fire engineering to say hot topic, but yeah, this is a really important topic. So I think that's enough, I would say, by itself to say that this research should continue, and we should try and do some larger scale tests. I think that, you know, like more towards the classification side, just to see how these new treatments would react in a sort of the certified standardized testing methods like the SBI and things like that, just so it's much more relatable to the industry as well when you see these results. So that would be very, very interesting to see.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. And Michael, you are looking a lot of looking a lot at on building materials, for example, and what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think about the fire tests, the MCC results were interesting, but above all, first of all, more tests need to be done, of course, but I think we see that the time to ignition, the cone calorimeter, increases with the treatment, which is very important, and it's not always the case when we test flame retardants that the time to ignition increases. It might decrease, and then the peak heat release rate decreases maybe. But the time to ignition is a very important parameter for flame spread on a facade, for example. So I think that is a very interesting detail we saw here, the time to ignition, which will reduce the flame spread. And again, it's not always the case to get a longer time to ignition or in flame retard development of new flame retardants. So from a reaction to fire point of view, I think that was a very interesting and important detail here.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I find it's very exciting. I think to use eggshells and such for to actually use that for things like this. That's great. Have you now you looked at wood? What would happen if you use this for cotton, for example? Would it be completely stiff, or what will happen?
Cotton. Cotton is very soft wood as a material, has this, structure. So there are, I know, materials which are treated. I'm not sure if maybe you need a hybrid materials which you have a nanoparticle surrounded by some organic flexible material and which combines between, or it's like barrier between cotton material, like cellulose, and then so between these, because you need this flexibility, otherwise it's like after washing, you get away. So there are some organic materials which are really used and give a protection, but no, that's a interesting thing. Maybe another project for somebody else.
Another project.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And if you're looking ahead right now, you mentioned it in your presentation, but what would you like to be the next steps in your research?
I think we probably all agree that would be nice to do upscaling. So, of course, to do more samples, because we demonstrated principle. So we need to do more samples to treat for cone colorimetry and to do proper set of analysis really to evaluate these fire properties. So I would go for this initial step. And then, of course, upscaling, because as probably Michael and Konrad and others who we're talking agree that that's also very important. Because one thing, how in laboratory you get and how you get. So then it means assembling bigger blocks. Yeah, thinking how to impregnate them. And that is was mentioned, not to get the much precipitate, not to block industrial, and then assemble wood blocks and construct this 3D large scale, which you can test in according to all standards. So I believe we will discuss that with colleagues, and maybe we will have an opportunity to propose somewhere this our idea further. And the upscaling larger.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that.
And also, I would say, as a material chemist, I think economic assessment actually would be very nice to join somebody who could assess all these things, because you can try, but if it's not much return on investment, it's also you have to So would be, I would say, very nice working package to professionals from that field to estimate,
Yeah, good point. Really. So thank you. Anything more you would like to add, Michael, Konrad, Edita? No?
I just will say that I think it was a nice project. Thank you for all. I think we showed nice preliminary results, and we have, I think, a nice team which works together well. And we will continue, I think.
Yeah, very good. That's the way it should be. So excellent. Okay.
Yeah, and we also established new collaborations which are coming from a different sectors, contributing or suggesting from different sides what can be done and interesting. So I think that's also very important. And so there's a lot of what to do, But we overall, I think, we should be probably happy with this. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you. I will give a little sum up and looking ahead for future webinars together with the audience now. Thank you. So just to wrap this up, this is our fundraising this year, and as I mentioned, we have raised about 680,000 euros so far. It's still open if you want to chip in, and thank you very much if you already have. And of course, we already are raising money for next year's research as well. And we have more webinars coming up. You can always see on the webpage what is going on, and you can also find the webinars that we have been doing before, and you can see the recordings from them. And if you want our newsletter, you can sign up. It's at the bottom at the webpage. And you can also follow us on LinkedIn and other social media. And I would like to remind you that Emily Lantz is presenting or defending her licentiate thesis at 1 o'clock today. You can find the link on our webpage, and no registration is needed. And of course, Emily, we wish you the best. So good luck. And if you have any suggestions or on other webinars that we should do, just please get in touch with us. And if you have other things to discuss with us, you're also, of course, welcome to get in touch with us. You can find our information on the webpage. And I also would like to thank my colleagues, Francis Eurenius and Matthias Hammarin, that has been producing this webinar together with me. So thank you, the researchers, and also thank you for listening, and also thank you for using this knowledge and spreading knowledge that we publish. That's very important. And thank you to all the supporting organizations. We couldn't do this without you. And please answer a questionnaire that will be sent to you after this webinar. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.